Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Vaneet Brach. We're going to start with breaking news. Rescue efforts have been launched as 3 workers remain trapped underground at the Red Chris mine in northern BC. BC's Premier David Eby provided these details today and says they are believed to be uninjured. The Premier says describes them as 2 miners who are from BC and 1 is from Ontario. The mine is just south of Dease Lake. It's operated by Vancouver-based gold company Newmont. Here is what we know so far with what happened. Still lots of questions, but the company says on Tuesday morning there were 2 fall of ground incidents in the access way to the underground work area. It says the 3 business partner employees were able to safely get to a designated refuge station, which has food, water, and ventilation. But it says since the second fall of ground, communication has been restricted. Now, Eby says the company is working with rescue crews.
The company is working with our world-leading mining rescue teams. BC miners are the best in the world. Our rescue teams are exceptional, and they will be working overtime to bring these workers home safely to their families.
In the meantime, Newmont says they've stopped all operations at the mine. It says during the initial incident, those miners were working more than 500 meters beyond the affected zone. Now, Newmont says after the first event, it made contact with those individuals. That's when they confirmed that they had safely relocated to a refuge area. But then it was the second fall of ground that restricted communication. The company says that, again, the full force is on the response effort right now. It is assessing all methods and technologies that are available to restore communication and bring those team members to the surface. Newmont describes Red Chris mine as an open pit gold and copper mine that's been operating since 2015. We do not know how long the rescue effort could take. Our teams at CBC News are working to get you more details on this. And today, the man accused of driving an SUV into a crowd of people at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival in Vancouver is in court. The hearing will determine if he is fit to stand trial. Kaiji Adam Lowe is also now facing 11 counts of second-degree murder. That is up from 8 previously. The judge will try to determine if he has the capacity to understand what he's accused of, whether he can communicate with his lawyer, and if he can make decisions related to the case. Days after the tragedy, Vancouver Coastal Health said the suspect was under the supervision of a mental health care team. Publication ban is expected to cover much of what is discussed in court today. And you will soon be able to experience nightlife longer in Vancouver. City Council has voted to extend liquor serving hours. So that means that most downtown Vancouver bars will be able to apply to serve alcohol as late as 4 a.m. Then outside of downtown, businesses could serve drinks until 3 a.m. on weekends and 2 a.m. on weeknights. Restaurants can also apply to sell booze until 2 a.m. Now, while many bar owners are supporting that shift, a Vancouver Coastal Health officer advised council to reconsider due to the risks of more injuries and violence. The changes are expected to be in place later this year. You are updated this morning. I'm Vaneet Brach. Stay with us. BC Today will be bringing you more coverage on the Red Chris mine. See you soon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Some developing news in the north up first. 3 miners trapped underground at the Red Chris mine near Dease Lake. They are apparently uninjured and rescue efforts are underway. We're going to bring you the latest on that in just a moment. And Premier David Eby is speaking to media this hour along with a Washington state senator, and it's all about trade as that deadline for negotiations approaches. We'll listen to what they have to say coming up at 12:15. Plus, now that the maelstrom around the Coldplay couple has died down, we're asking, is social media changing how we act in public? I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. First to that developing story now. We're closely following the operation to rescue 3 miners working trapped underground after an accident at the Red Chris mine site in northwest BC's Stikine region. The Red Chris mine is an open pit copper and gold mine. It's operated by Newmont Corporation on Tahltan Nation territory near Dease Lake. The operator says the accident happened yesterday morning after 2 fall of ground incidents that blocked the opening to the underground work area. BC Premier David Eby did provide an update on the situation this morning at a Premier's press conference in Huntsville, Ontario. He says 2 of the workers are from BC and another from Ontario.
There are 3 miners that are currently trapped underground. They are, to the best of our knowledge, uninjured and in a refuge area. There was early communication with the company. The company is working with our world-leading mining rescue teams. BC miners are the best in the world. Our rescue teams are exceptional, and they will be working overtime to bring these workers home safely to their families. 2 of the workers are from British Columbia, 1 is from Ontario. I've spoken with Premier Ford, and we're keeping his government up to date as well. Obviously, it's very concerning for the families, for the workers in the sector, and all British Columbians and Canadians, and our thoughts are with the families and an appreciation with the incredibly brave rescue teams that are working right now.
That's Premier David Eby speaking this morning. Now, CBC reporter Meera Bains has been following this developing story closely, and she joins me now here in our studio. Hi, Meera.
Hi, Michelle.
What do we know so far?
Well, you heard Premier David Eby talking about these 3 workers, but we're not exactly clear what condition they're in. Now, he says they're believed to be uninjured, but we so far don't know all the information because there was a loss of communication with them after the first rock fall. So this incident happened yesterday, and according to the company Newmont, there were 2 fall of ground incidents. So in mining speak, that means when rocks fall from the roof of the mine. So we are getting somewhere that one of the incidents may have happened above ground and one of them happened below ground, but that hasn't been confirmed. But as you can imagine, this is a developing situation, and the real focus is going to be on the rescue and the condition of these workers. But basically what happened was that these workers were about 500 meters away from the first incident. We don't exactly know how far underground they were when this incident happened. And so they were told, according to the company, to go to basically a refuge station. And so this is a statement that Newmont put out after this incident, providing us with some details. And so the company says, following the first event, contact was established with the individuals and confirmation was received that they had safely relocated to one of the multiple self-contained refuge bays. The refuge stations are equipped with adequate food, water, and ventilation to support an extended stay. Now, we don't exactly know what an extended stay means, how many hours, how many days. And so after this, there was a second incident and another rock fall, and that affected communications, further blocking access. So there are questions about their condition after this second one. And the operations at the mine, as you mentioned, have stopped so this emergency response can take place.
Okay, and we'll be hearing from a union leader who's based in Duncan. This is the union that represents workers at the Red Chris mine. These 3 workers are not members of their local, as they are, in his words, they're contractors. So they're not members in particular of this union, but he was being apprised of the situation as we spoke. Go ahead, Meera.
Yeah, just a little bit about some of the rescue efforts. We did get some more information from the ministry as well. From Premier David Eby, he was talking about, rescue efforts that are being done. But Newmont says that it is working on restoring communications with workers. There is an emergency response teams at the mine that are going to be activated and are being activated as we speak. But the Minister of Mines put out a statement basically that they've dispatched a geotechnical inspector of mines to the site to work with Newmont to support some of these rescue efforts and maybe offer some assistance. And they're also, the Ministry of Transportation is expediting a permit to allow heavy equipment into the area to help with some of these rescue efforts.
Okay, Meera Bains, thank you very much. That's CBC reporter Meera Bains following this story. Again, 3 miners trapped at northern BC mine. This is the Red Chris mine on Tahltan Nation territory near Dease Lake. And there are rescue efforts underway right now. According to the Premier, they are apparently uninjured, though there has been a hampering of communication after a second ground fall, is what they call it, which is when rock falls at the mining site. Now, earlier today, we did speak with United Steelworkers Local 1937, and this local represents workers at the Red Chris mine, though not these particular 3 workers who are contractors. I spoke to Nolan Paquette about the situation earlier today, and he is a business agent with that local. Nolan, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. First, can you tell us, USW Local 1937 represents workers at the Red Chris mine, is that right?
Yeah, we represent the 450 workers at the Red Chris site above ground currently while the block cave is under construction.
Okay, so what does that mean for the 3 workers right now who are trapped? Are they members of your local?
They are not, so we're just getting information coming in as well. So it's 3 contractors. I'm not sure what contract company they're with exactly. What I have so far from the company is that there was a fall of ground incident. The workers—
What does that mean? Can you just describe what a fall of ground incident is?
Like a slough of the wall or the side wall. So they're blocked in by rocks.
Okay, that's fallen.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, pardon me, tell me what happened then when that incident happened.
So what I have so far is pretty limited with them being a remote site in Dease Lake. I'm playing phone tag a lot right now.
Sure.
But we're trying to get some more details. But the 3 members of— I'm not sure what contract company yet, but they've made it to the refuse station. So that's like a safety barrier within the underground. They have air and food and water, and usually they're supplied for about a week in there with supplies, is what I've got from the company. They have the mine rescue team currently hopefully getting to them as quickly as possible. And the company is working at getting some more details out as well in the near future.
Okay, and what we have in terms of a statement says that there was this fall of ground incident, as you say. They were able to relocate to a designated refuge area before essentially this fall of ground blocked their way out. But they are uninjured and they have access to food and equipment, as you say.
Yeah, that's what I have so far.
Okay. What is communication like right now then? Because this statement says that a second fall of ground event subsequently restricted communication.
That's news to me. I haven't got that yet.
Okay. This is a statement that we've received. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about what the work is like at the Red Chris mine? What's taking place right now? What would these workers have been endeavoring?
So the block cave's under construction. So they're boring the hole to get into block cave operations within the next 3 years. Currently, it's an open pit mine.
Right.
So everything's above ground. And then, yeah, certain groups of contractors and individuals are opening up the block cave for production. But yeah, it's not anticipated for another 3 years or so to be in production.
So this is a pursuit of block cave mining as opposed to open pit mining, which is what Red Chris is right now.
Yeah.
And this is work being done in the early stages of that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. First of all, how are you feeling as this situation unfolds now then?
It's always unnerving. You want to make sure everybody's safe, regardless if they're your members or not. We're hoping for the best, and yeah, just waiting for more information as it comes. Um, you always feel for anybody in this type of situation.
Have you ever come across anything like this before at Red Chris or any other mine that you've worked with?
I have not. No, this is a first for me.
Really? Can you tell me a bit about what kind of training would exist? I know these are contract workers, so you're not that familiar with them, but what kind of training would exist for workers when faced with this kind of situation?
I can't speak to it too clearly because I'm not too familiar with the block cave as of yet. So that'll be a new process when it goes into production for us as the steelworkers.
Okay. And when you say they have access to resources, what exactly would be around them to help them survive while they wait?
From what I've seen in the clips from Newmont there when we were going over some of the block cave stuff, the refuse stations are equipped with water, food, and oxygen just in case of a situation like this. I'm not sure of details of supplies, but enough supplies to make it for a week for sure.
Okay. And while they are there, would that be considered, to your knowledge, would that be considered work that they would be compensated for? What would happen then?
I'm not sure how they operate as the contract.
Okay. And we've heard from the premier this morning saying that rescue efforts are underway. What do you know about that?
So the mine rescue team, that is the United Steelworkers as well as others on site. So they've been engaged since yesterday. And I think they're very well trained in what they do. So I'm sure they have a plan in place and are working actively to get them out as quickly as possible.
When it comes to pursuing the block cave mine, do you have any concerns about how much deeper that does go into the ground as opposed to an open pit mine and what risks there may be?
I think there's risks with all of it, even in the open pit aspect. The block cave is, from what we've seen so far, it's going to be more productive and less bodies in place. So essentially a bit safer, although you're underground doing it. It'll be the first block cave for the United Steelworkers here that we deal with once they do hit production. So same thing, more information coming in on that as we get closer to production.
Okay. And for, I guess, who you mentioned that the rescuers would also be members of your union.
Yeah, the mine rescue team. Yeah,
What kind of training would they have?
they do training. I want to say at least monthly up there. One of our shop stewards is a mine rescue on the mine rescue team. So yeah, they're very well versed at what they do. I can't speak entirely to what they do, but they're set up for all situations, above ground, underground.
Okay. And so if I were, my next question was going to be, what do you know about what's involved in a rescue like this? What would you be able to describe that?
I can't speak to it.
Okay. And I know you're based in Duncan, and I'm talking about Dease Lake here, but what more can you tell us about the site itself? Can you describe it for us?
Just typical open pit site. Probably about 1,000-man camp. And then, yeah, they're running open pit currently. The block cave is set down towards the bottom of the site and under construction and to be hopefully in production come the next 3 years or so. But I think it's permitting and getting it set up to mine.
Okay. And when you say fall of ground, again, just so I get a better sense of what that means, this is essentially part of like a rock face around it, a wall around it as they build the block, as they build down.
As they bore into the rock. So I'm assuming, I'm not sure if it's a side slough or a top slough. I haven't got that information yet, but this is all stuff I'm trying to find out as well today.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so what's your message, I guess, for your members as you await word on what's happening here?
Just know that the right people are in place to get them out and yeah, remain calm and let those rescuers do what they do. And hopefully we can get them out safe and sound in a timely fashion.
Do you know how many people are involved in the rescue?
I don't off the top of my head.
Okay. And pardon me, Nolan, can you go through again just the timeline? Because I think there was some confusion earlier with when exactly the events happened. What's the timeline that you know of?
The timeline that I got, so I was made aware yesterday about 8:30 at night. I got a text message about an incident at the site and then did some investigating with our shop stewards. I don't know an exact timeline of when this event took place. Still trying to figure that out as well. Um, it's difficult when you're on the island and this is all happening up in Dease Lake.
Yeah, for sure. What are the, I guess, what are the next steps for you from your office?
Reaching out to the company to try and get some more information as well. And yeah, keep in touch with our shop stewards on site to see what they can find out being on the ground.
What do you want to make sure that the workers have handy? What they, what resources they have access to?
For our workers, they got on-site counseling up there all the time. So if anybody's having any issues, yeah, reach out to the counseling on site. They're there to help. I know this can be mentally strenuous on all parties involved. So yeah, just keep your mind on task and focus on getting these people out safe and sound.
How concerning is mining overall? As an industry, how concerned, and people might listen to this and think, of risks when it comes to mining and other incidents they may have heard of around the world. How risky is mining work for the laborers?
Overall, I'd say it's relatively safe in the big picture. We have a lot of health and safety regulations in Canada, which is nice, and joint health and safety committees basically on each site. So mitigate any risks that are out there.
That was Nolan Paquette. I spoke with him earlier today. He is a business agent for United Steelworkers Local 1937, and that office is in Duncan. They represent workers at the Red Chris mine, not though the 3 workers who are involved in this story. As you've been hearing, 3 workers, 2 from BC, 1 from Ontario, are trapped underground right now at the Red Chris mine near Dease Lake. It happened yesterday when 2 incidents known as fall of ground incidents in the access way to an underground work area. And as you heard from Nolan Paquette, there is work being done at the site to bore into the ground, making way for a block cave or underground mining operations. That's set to open about 3 years from now. Right now, the workers are still trapped. The Premier says, though, that as far as he knows, the workers are uninjured. Rescue efforts are underway right now. We'll have much more throughout the day on this story here on CBC, on radio and television, online. You can check cbc.ca/BC for continuing updates. This is BC Today. The city of Vancouver now, in other news, will extend liquor serving hours from 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. in the downtown core. Bars in other parts of the city will also be able to stay open later. That's at 2 a.m. on weeknights and 3 on weekends. Now, Vancouver City Councillors voted unanimously yesterday to change liquor serving laws. We talked about this yesterday on the show prior to the vote as they continued to debate this question. And we asked you, do you like or want to have the option of longer liquor serving hours, or do you have concerns about their impact? June wrote us this email. I find this proposal quite challenging on so many levels as we listen to news about domestic violence on women. This one is from Denise, who is a former cab driver. She writes, many taxis have 2 owners. One owns the day shift, the other owns the night shift. Night shift drivers make most of their income from the nightclub closing crowd. A later closing shift will shift that windfall income to the day shift owners and drivers. It's going to cause a big problem for the taxi industry, which has already been hit hard by the ride-sharing companies. Joan writes from Burnaby, I think it's a very bad idea to extend drinking hours unless more policing is put in place, which will cost us taxpayers more money, and we're already being dinged on all sides. We also got this email from Rita Koutsudimos, Executive Director at the BC Alliance for Healthy Living Society. And Rita writes, alcohol is ranked as the #2 risk factor for chronic disease by the World Health Organization. The amount of alcohol needed to impact chronic diseases is much lower than the, quote, problem drinking level. Policy that supports a moderate alcohol culture puts reasonable restrictions on access through location, hours of availability, and pricing. Thanks for your emails. BC Today at cbc.ca. 12:25 now. You're with BC Today here on CBC. Thanks very much for joining us. We are watching as well this press conference that Premier David Eby is holding alongside a Washington State Senator, Pat Murray, and they're addressing the issue around trade and the impact of tariffs on the Washington State economy. We'll be watching that for any updates, but they have been ongoing for quite a few minutes now, so we'll watch that for any updates to give you. But right now, we're going to start our open line segment of the program, because this is a discussion that I think many of you will want to have. It really was like a soap opera unfolding before the world's eyes. And I'm talking about the controversy over the Coldplay couple who were caught during the band's concert, shown on the Jumbotron, filmed on camera, and then memed and parodied all throughout the internet for days. Okay, you know the story well. Since then, there have been discussions around whether that online pylon was deserved. There have been debates around personal accountability, the right to privacy, online jokes versus personal pain. Amid all of this, if you step back, there's also this ongoing observation in other contexts around how people seem to be changing how they behave under the glare of that phone camera and the fear of internet notoriety. So we're going to discuss all of that now for the rest of the show. We'd love to hear from you. How has that Coldplay controversy have you thinking about online notoriety? And are cameras and social media changing how we behave in public? Do you ever worry about getting filmed inadvertently? You can call us 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733, or hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca, or you can comment on our TikTok Live that's on right now. Joining me for this conversation is Jagris Hodson, Professor and Canada Research Chair in Digital Communication for the Public Interest at Royal Roads University. She joins me from Victoria. Hello, thanks so much for joining us, Professor Hodson.
Thank you for having me.
Are things settling down now for the Coldplay fiasco?
Well, yeah.
Can we move on?
Things seem to be slowing down a little bit. But yes, the memes are still frequent.
That's true. They are nonstop. What went through your own mind as you watched all of this unfold and then spread and create this internet firestorm?
Yeah, I think it was the same as everybody was thinking. It was sort of, the first thought was, oh, that's kind of funny. And then after that, you see it blow up and you're like, oh, you sort of feel bad for the people involved. And, you kind of enjoy the memes, but you have sort of guilt around
Right.
it. Like, it's funny, but also, yeah, these are real people out there.
Yeah, and we've seen examples of this many, many times, right? On whether it's a scale like this or a much smaller scale.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, I think we all, for the last decade or more, have those memes that stick in our head. And it might be, the girl with the braces. I don't know how many people remember this, who has all of the books and looks so happy to have her books, right? Or maybe it's, cat memes or whatever the
Right.
case may be, but they stick with you. And we don't want to be, the lightsaber kid or the Coldplay couple or any of those memeable people.
Yeah, and we're going to dig into that a bit. But do you know, when you think about the lightsaber kid, what is the impact long term on someone who becomes internet famous?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. And my research is not concerned with the long-term effect of becoming an unknown influencer. But what we do know is that people like that can get very bullied. Like Lightsaber Kid, mentioned that he was bullied quite heavily. And when you are bullied online, it doesn't just stay online. There are psychological, emotional, even economic impacts that can last your whole life. Maybe a potential employer might look at you differently because they recognize that meme and the fallout from it. I know people have been fired because of things they tweeted, for example, that went viral. So, it seems like it's all a bit of fun, but there are very real consequences to such behavior, especially when online bullying and harassment is involved.
Yeah, we certainly want to talk about that and what impact that has on people, that potential for becoming a meme. And does that affect at all how you behave when you are in public? And there's that chance that you may be caught on camera. So we'd love to hear from our audience on this. What are your thoughts on the Coldplay controversy and what that has meant for the internet and becoming internet famous. Have you ever worried about being caught on camera when you're out in public? Has it changed how you behave? Love to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. We're also taking your comments on our TikTok Live. Thanks for joining us there. My guest is Jagers Hodson, who studies all of this, professor in digital communication for public policy at Royal Roads University. And we're going to have this conversation go to your calls and your comments coming up in our next half hour. We'll take you to that conversation right after this CBC News update.
Good afternoon. As we've been hearing on the show, a rescue operation is underway for 3 miners trapped underground inside the Red Chris mine south of Dease Lake in northwest BC. The miners are in a refuge station with food, water and ventilation after a collapse in the access way to the underground work area yesterday morning. And while the miners were in that safe space, another collapse occurred, cutting off communication. The man accused of driving an SUV into a crowd of people celebrating Lapu Lapu Day in Vancouver is in court today. Kai G. Adam Lowe has been charged with 11 counts of second-degree murder. The judge is trying to determine the suspect's mental state. And a group of people living in a mobile home park on Vancouver Island, including seniors and some with health issues, have lost a court challenge of their evictions. The land is on the Songhees First Nation Reserve. Some of the residents have lived there for decades, but the court ruled they were living there on a month-to-month basis, not on a 99-year lease, as many believed. And now the forecast on the north coast, mainly cloudy this afternoon with a high of 15, highs reaching 22 with showers and thunderstorms in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 25. Highs in the mid-20s with some sun and cloud in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, sunny breaks with a high of 30. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, mainly sunny this afternoon with highs up to 27 inland. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Rob, thank you very much. That is Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And of course, much more on the workers who are trapped at the Red Chris mine near Dease Lake, and that rescue effort is underway. Much more on that throughout the day here on CBC and on CBC Radio 1. Lots more for listeners to On the Coast. Here's what's coming up.
Hi, Michelle. It's Amy. I'm not actually here today. Dan Burritt is going to be hosting On the Coast, and we have a really great show coming up. So we all know that there's tons of food that grows and is available here in the region, but it pales in comparison to what was here before colonization. So a new report from the Tsleil-Waututh First Nation finds the effects of colonization has destroyed 88% of harvestable food. So we're going to take a look at that report. Also, midway through the first season of the Vancouver Rise FC professional women's soccer team, and on Thursday, it's all going to the dogs. They call it Bark in the Park. Fans will be encouraged to bring their dogs to the game at Swangard Stadium. So we're going to meet Nikki Stanton and her dog, Burger. That's all coming up on the show. On the Coast starts at 3 o'clock.
Welcome back. You're with BC Today here on CBC. We're live on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television, as well as CBC Gem and YouTube. as well as TikTok. So we're taking your comments on all of those platforms. You can call us too. We're asking you about that idea of becoming internet famous. What has that Coldplay couple controversy, what has that have you thinking about online notoriety? And are cameras and social media changing how we behave in public? Do you ever worry about being caught on camera? On a bad day, perhaps? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca, and you can, again, comment on our TikTok Live. My guest is Jagers Hodson, professor and Canada Research Chair in Digital Communication for the Public Interest at Royal Roads University. You know, it's interesting, Jagers. I've been, just to move on from the Coldplay couple, I've been listening to Tyler, the Creator's new album. And as part of the rollout, he kind of talked on online about how his friends have been telling him they don't dance anymore. And that's kind of the idea of this album, is he wants people to dance. And he posted that some of his friends don't dance anymore because they're afraid of being filmed. And he sort of lamented that form of expression and connection that he said he called it was now a ghost. That are we getting to that point where people are afraid to express themselves because they're worried about how that might be viewed or perceived and then recorded and posted for posterity?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to whether there's been research done on that. And I sort of think that right now we're mostly hearing anecdotal reports.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, I think we are now all called upon to be public figures. And, you know, young people now are saying they want to be influencers. They're inviting this, right? But you know, many of us don't want to be influencers. And when you're not interested in that as a potential career path, then yeah, I mean, maybe you are starting to think twice sometimes about what it is you do. You don't want to be bullied online. You don't want to open yourself up to the scrutiny of, you know, strangers on the internet. We do know that, you know, young people, you know, even a decade ago, were already feeling the effects of being terminally online. So bullying that used to stop at the school ground now carries over, and it follows you home because it's on the social networks. And I think so now adults are getting a taste of what that feels like as well. And with the, you know, TikTok, for example, and these other short videos becoming so prevalent, people are looking for interesting and fun content to share. And that means that, you know, at any time, yeah, you maybe could be on camera. We all carry a functioning computer and camera in our pockets all the time.
It's amazing to think that that's what we're able to do now, right? I can just pick up my phone and record myself right now as I'm talking to you. And what about that argument then that, you know, when you go out there, you know, this couple at the concert, they knew cameras were around. I don't want to debate what they did, but in general, is that something that you should just consider, that, you know, anyone can record you at a certain point, and that you're out in public?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, when you're at a Coldplay concert, there's going to be huge cameras. But on the other hand, I think that we don't want to stop dancing because, you know, we think there might be a camera on, and we don't, you know, it's not fair for us to laugh at somebody, you know, just because they dance in a certain way, right? And yes, you could say that the Coldplay couple probably should not have been having an affair in public if they're going to have one. You could also argue probably having an affair is not something we want to encourage. But at the same time, it is a new reality for people of having to sort of think about, will this be broadcast on the internet because it's interesting to people? And I, for one, don't want to live in a world where I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, you know, second guessing every move I make just because I might become a meme. I think to a certain extent, we have to allow ourselves to be different and glorious and to dance in a funny way in order to get the most out of life.
I was looking at this video where there was a professor talking about that whole fear of being cringe among, you know, Gen Z, Generation Z, and how it was sort of limiting the way they express themselves because, it might be seen as cringe. And so that in some ways might be just a road down which you may not want to go because it kind of limits expression. But when you talk about the couple themselves, Michelle wrote us an email. I don't find the Coldplay couple and the resulting memes funny at all. All I can think about is his wife and family and how all of this is affecting them, unwilling victims of the whole situation. Yeah, there's the personal pain that's in there as well. And I wonder, do people ever think about the ethics of that when they're posting something and turning it into a meme?
Yeah, I don't think that's what's on people's minds. I think that this was a moment, and obviously it was captured on a big camera. This wasn't somebody taking a picture of the Coldplay couple on their phone, right? This was bigger than that.
Right.
But then it became a meme because it was kind of funny. It was because Chris Martin, lead singer of Coldplay, called them out in public, and I think that probably Chris Martin didn't think that this was going to be the result. But that was so funny that that's what became the meme. And then the people who were memifying that or sharing it, yeah, I don't think they were thinking of the consequences of their actions. They're just thinking, this is funny. In the moment, social media is optimized for us to post before we think. So in the moment, it's just like, oh, this is hilarious. I'm going to share it with my closest friends on Instagram or on TikTok. And then suddenly, your closest friends on TikTok becomes a viral moment. I don't think anybody meant to do ill, but yeah, the consequences are quite big. When something does go viral in that way.
Do you ever talk to your students about how this affects them in their own lives?
Yeah, so I teach, a couple of social media classes, and so things like this, often come up, and I think that there's an interesting phenomenon in the academic literature which is called the privacy paradox, and the paradox is that we all know that social media is not protecting our privacy. We all know that we're putting ourselves out there, and we don't always like it, but we keep doing it. And I think that's because to people, the benefits outweigh the costs. And in this case, when I talk to my students, it turns out that, in order to stay in touch with their friends and to be on top of the latest memes and just for entertainment purposes, they've decided to make that trade-off, even if they're not always 100% comfortable with it.
We have an email here, some great emails coming in. bctoday@cbc.ca is our email address. Of course, you can comment on our TikTok Live. You can call in as well. Love to hear your thoughts on internet notoriety. What's the impact of that? And has it made you think twice about how you behave in public for fear of being caught on camera? And what do you make of that whole thought process? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Hit pound 690 as well on your phone to make it easy. Ben writes from Fort St. John, I, for one, am getting tired of random clips of catching people doing what people do, which is be human. If the gold standard for human behavior is perfection, I'm afraid we are all in for a heap of disappointment. Oh, I can see you kind of smiling wryly as you listen to that, Chagris. It really hits a nail on the head, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we're too worried about being cringe just for being ourselves, then again, that's a world that I'm not interested really in participating in.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Ben. Yeah, that's a really good point. Jen writes, it's not just people sharing the meme, it's corporations, which I find just completely unethical. It's become so popular. We've seen different companies jump on the trend, so to speak, for sure as well. Douglas writes, I'm hearing a couple of interesting points about the fear of public disapproval, stopping people from dancing, but we're not talking about why. Okay, adultery, like the Coldplay couple, should be called out as a deplorable action it is, and we should all talk about the consequences of our actions. Culture needs to shift to accept dancing, though. It doesn't need to shift to cover up adultery. Okay, so this point about kind of drawing that line. Awareness of cameras and the potential of being filmed should have everyone on their best behavior, but dancing is our best behavior. Okay, Douglas, thank you very much. Jumping on the comment there from Tyler, the creator, which is what I was referring to, but interesting that he makes a distinction between the kinds of actions that could be acceptably filmed on camera. Are people making those distinctions in their mind, do you think, Chagris?
Well, I mean, clearly no, because we wouldn't be having this conversation otherwise.
Yeah.
But I also think it's important for us to think about what is the privacy level we deserve, right? Like, should, even people who are committing adultery, should they not have an expectation of privacy? Maybe they made an error in choosing where to be out and about, maybe, but at the same time, I think everybody deserves privacy, and what happens in between consenting adults is for them to sort of sort out on their own
It's
and
a
with their
personal matter.
families.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so do we want to live in a world where, anybody can come in and, catch you on camera? I struggle with that because I don't think I want to live in a world where we are judging others and calling each other out all the time. But the audience member is right too, insofar as maybe the Coldplay couple is the best example of this, right? Like, maybe thinking about Lightsaber Kid is a better example. He was just, playing with his lightsaber, and then, he became this huge meme, and people laughed at him for a really long time. And that was really hard for him in his life. Should we not be able to have privacy where we can do silly things and not have it spread all over the internet? Maybe that's a better question than focusing on the Coldplay couple.
Right. Yeah. That seems to be the distinction that he's made as well in the email. Kim is up next now in Vancouver. Hi, Kim. Yeah, your thoughts on the internet notoriety that people seem to have gotten. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are that I wish this whole scenario was the internet notoriety part was removed from it completely, and it was more about the actions that were chosen by those two people, which are really, really, really hurtful and sad and horrible to their family members. I think that in the world that we live in, cheating on your partner is so commonplace. And people don't talk about that enough.
That's really
interesting. I wish that, I'm glad. I actually was really glad that it went viral. I thought, wow, this is a good thing for people to see because it happens everywhere all the time in every industry. It is rampant in our society, and it's not okay.
So
yeah.
Does it open
I'm
up
on the
that
other
conversation?
side of the coin.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
really
on the other
interesting.
side.
Yeah, fair. That's fair, Kim.
I say spread it more. Spread it more.
Do you think, though, that it contributes to the pain of the people they've hurt?
Well, contributing or opens their eyes to the people that they hurt.
Okay.
The spouses of those two may never have found this out, or they may have found out by sneaking onto their partner's phone or having to, this way, yeah, it's pretty shocking, I'm sure, to find out this way, but good they found out.
Okay.
Because it's not okay. It's not okay to act like that.
I really appreciate your contributing that to the conversation, Kim. Thanks so much. And I'm going to go to our next caller because I think it's kind of a similar point, and then we can kind of discuss after that. But Chris in Victoria, go ahead.
Hi, how are you today? Can you hear me all right?
Sure can. Yeah, doing well. And what are your thoughts on that internet notoriety this couple achieved, so to speak, and what I guess internet fame means for how people act in public?
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to comment on, internet notoriety and the internet fame around this. Like if they're getting famous, I guess it depends on the perspective of what you consider to be famous.
Yeah,
but
right.
My general comment is around, something that your guest said there, where she said, we may not want to be in a society where, our privacy is limited and we can get, caught on camera at a moment's notice. But the stark truth of it is that's the society that we're currently in, whether we like it or not. So if you're going to be out in a public place doing something that from your own internal perspective is not okay to be doing, then you have to have the idea in your mind that there's a possibility that might get caught on camera and you might have to bear the consequences of that. If you're in a private place and someone invades your privacy, like comes into your home or something like that, it's a completely different issue. But as far as I'm concerned, this couple was out in public. And, and it's also, you can't necessarily say, I guess from their reaction, you might assume that they were, doing something that they shouldn't have been seen doing. But there are also lots of different relationship dynamics in the world. And, you don't want to assume that someone's in a certain type of relationship when they may be in a different type of relationship.
Sure. Yeah. And I know you didn't want to talk about the internet notoriety part of it, Chris, but yourself, we've been talking about, do you limit yourself when you're in public or, not dance in a silly way? Like, do you ever think about that when you're out and about?
Never. No.
Okay.
I think a little bit of it just comes down to how big your ego is and how worried you are about, getting seen doing something that you think other people would consider to be silly. If I'm dancing and people don't like the way I'm dancing, too bad. I'm having a good time and I'm enjoying myself and I'm happy with it. So it depends on, I guess, how big your ego is and how bad you want to be hurt by it.
Yeah, how seriously you take yourself. Chris, I look forward to you emailing us a video of you dancing.
I will too.
Thanks for the call. Lots of comments on TikTok. Feisty post, how can you expect privacy in a public place nowadays? Jonathan writes, if you do worry about that, maybe don't act that way. Kirsten writes, cameras are everywhere. You can't just not be okay with it. And Feisty writes again, I didn't feel for them. A cheater is a cheater. Interesting point there. And our first caller made it as well. Jiggers, does this at least open up a conversation around something that was pretty taboo, which is, affairs and the impact that they have?
Yeah, I mean, I don't study personal relationships,
for sure.
I don't know if I can add to that, but I do want to say through my study of online harassment, we know that there are people who suffer who are not necessarily the targeted party, right? Mm-hmm. So, people who are linked to the targeted party, friends, family, or, somebody who is like maybe your administrative assistant who has to read emails that you get that are threatening, those people all suffer secondhand accounts of harassment. And so while I am sympathetic to what Kim said, about, yes, it ought to be out in the open. And yes, if I were married to either of those people, I would want it to be out in the open, but not like that, right? Because if you're the laughing stock of the internet, or if your partner who is cheating on you is the laughing stock of the internet, then by proxy, you feel like the laughing stock of the internet. So it adds insult to injury. And yeah, there's a degree of, this has been made a million times worse now because not only am I brokenhearted because this has come to light, but I am also embarrassed in front of the world. Right. And so I'm not sure that we should be glad that this came to light in the way that it did, even if we do think that, adulterers should, be called out for their behavior.
What do you want us to be thinking about then? Like, what, if anything, what are some lessons for, internet ethics, online ethics out of this?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I just had a really interesting conversation with my PhD student, Joan Owen, who is studying online polarization. And, who mentioned we really always make assumptions about the person at the other end of the post, but they're not always positive assumptions. Right? We have to remember that when we post something or when we read a post or we see a post, there are real human beings at the other side and real lives that are impacted. And so it's not all, engagement algorithms on social media tend to deliver us things that they think we're going to find entertaining. And it turns out in this case, we do find it entertaining. But we have to remember that, these are not public figures. They didn't mean to be public figures, and they're not performing for us. And so there's real consequences to this stuff. So, just having, a little bit of extra empathy and recognizing that, maybe we're not having an affair, but maybe we're caught on a bad day, or, we did something that we weren't proud of for whatever reason, and that gets caught on camera. How would we want people to treat us? And so, yeah, a little empathy goes a long way.
Yeah. As someone said, it's being human. If the standard was to be perfect, we'd be disappointed pretty soon.
That's right. Yeah.
Sheila in Nanaimo. Hi there. What are your thoughts on internet notoriety and how that affects people and how they behave?
I'm coming from a place of sort of historical interest, maybe, because I used to work for BCTV back in the day. And we had to, when I would be shooting on location, we had to get a permission signature from everybody who might walk through our background and in a shot. And that was right into the early 90s. And I'm just wondering when that stopped. Like, when did it become permissible, acceptable, and allowable to broadcast everybody doing everything? Because it didn't used to be.
Yeah, and that's the standard that was upheld in broadcasting. Sheila, thank you so much. How does that differ from just your regular, everyday person who has a phone, Jagers?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's an important thing to remember, right? So Instagram, so Meta owns Instagram, and ByteDance owns TikTok, and they don't consider themselves to be media companies or broadcasters, right? They consider themselves to be a platform that connects people to other people. And so since it's individuals using these tools and creating the content, right? They suggest that we should think of them more like a telephone, that's connecting people to people. But it's not, because the algorithms at the very least make decisions about what to put in front of people, right? So there are editorial decisions that are happening, but usually those editorial decisions are made in the effort to maximize the attention that is seen on the advertisement. So they want to get as many eyes as possible. But because they have positioned themselves and have been accepted by the government as being these platforms rather than media companies, they're not held accountable. So TikTok's not held accountable. Facebook isn't held accountable. And that means, that they can be effectively broadcasting, right? But it's not treated in the same way. They don't need to get permission or that sort of thing.
Well, this it's been a lot to chew on. I really appreciate your taking us through, where we are in this culture right now and what we may be in for. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for having me.
All the best. Have a good afternoon. Jagers Hodson, professor and Canada Research Chair in Digital Communication for the Public Interest at Royal Roads University. Lots of emails are coming in as well. And Marion writes, I was saddened to hear that young people are afraid of dancing for fear of being filmed and made fun of. My heart goes out to young people who feel they don't have that freedom. I hope they will find the courage to dance like no one is watching. I hope you find that courage too. Dance like no one's watching. Thanks for joining us here on BC Today.